When I was able to go to college, my parents didn't have all of the money because even though you had a full scholarship, you needed clothes and other things. And I remember my uncles, my father's brothers, they came in and, they bought the clothes, they did this. So now that I think about it, they really contributed a lot as well in terms of
Mm,
making sure. So, I think we both grew up in an
Mhm.
era where it was the extended family that all came together if they saw someone with ambition and wanting to do better. So it wasn't just the parents, the immediate parental structure, but you also had the extended family. And I think
mhm,
Right.
that really applies to a lot of Black families today that are, in addition to the parents, you had these others that are going to come in when they see
mhm.
the need. And I hope that's something that we do as well, because we
Right.
both try to help anybody that we see with that ambition, not only by encouragement, but trying to help financially if we can to encourage others so that they can move ahead. Because I fully believe in that, bringing somebody with you, not just taking advantage of opportunities for yourselves, but how can you help others?
I was just gonna ask you a question, you both a question about, like, what traditions
Mhm.
you learned in your growing up, in your youth that you've taken with you, and listening to you right now, Miss Beard, I know your son Lee really well, and I feel like that's, like, the embodiment of Lee,
Mm. Oh,
too.
yeah.
Just somebody who is very, very thoughtful and,
Mhm,
is always encouraging other people and is always, like, bringing other people along and, definitely one of his strengths, and so I see that as something that, you pass on, you definitely
Right.
incorporate into your life and then pass on. So
mhm,
yeah,
Yeah.
that's really beautiful to kind of to
Yeah.
see that
mhm.
in this way. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the fifth season of In the Telling, a global Black family podcast. I'm Miranda Mims, and I am joined by my wonderful co host, Stephen G. Fullwood, and we are the founders of the Nomadic Archivist Project, which is a community driven effort to protect and celebrate Black material culture. So, this season of In the Telling, as always, we span the global Black world with intimate conversations about family, both blood and chosen. Guests share the stories, objects, and rituals that hold their lives together, from migration and matriarchs to recipes, photos, and, of course, hard won truths. This season, there is no single story, line, or theme, just a wide open table where memory meets meaning and where telling becomes a way to keep each other.
Our guests today, our very special guests today, are the Beards. And we have Martha Perine Beard, a native of Mobile, Alabama, who grew up in the segregated South and recognized education as her path to opportunity. She earned a full scholarship to Clark College, now Clark Atlanta University, graduating summa cum laude and a master's degree in economics from Washington University in St. Louis. Her distinguished career at the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis began as a management trainee and culminated in her historical appointment as the first African American woman to serve as vice president and senior branch executive of the Memphis branch, overseeing operations in West Tennessee, North Mississippi, and East Arkansas. Upon retirement, she was honored by the state of Tennessee, Shelby County, and the city of Memphis. An active community leader, Mrs. Beard has served on numerous boards and is deeply involved with the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, the Lynx, and the Girlfriends Incorporated.
Hmm.
Mrs. Beard is the mother of three children, David, Lee, and Allison, and the grandmother of three. Savoyd Beard, a native of Haywood County, Tennessee, discovered his passion for music in childhood, mastering the clarinet and oboe before finishing high school. A missed scholarship offer to Tennessee State University led him to enlist in the U.S. Army, where he joined the 82nd Airborne Division as a paratrooper and continued his musical
Mm.
journey, learning flute and saxophone. While serving at Fort Bragg, He became the post band's librarian and resolved to play every flute composition in the library. Encouraged to audition for the prestigious United States Army Band in Washington, D.C., a unit known for performing at inaugurations and state events, he passed and became one of the first African Americans to join the ensemble. After military service, Beard studied electrical engineering and music arranging, later working as a computer systems administrator for the Securities and Exchange Commission while performing with major artists. Since moving to Memphis in 1997, he has served as an artist in residence and a church musician. He is a proud father of 2 children, Petra Lane and Ignatius Beard. Welcome to the show, Mr. and Mrs. Beard. We are so glad to have you.
Thank you. We're glad to be here.
Yes, welcome. And I love that you're, in Memphis right now. My family's from Memphis, Tennessee,
cool.
although I'm in Western New York. And I think, Mrs. Beard, you may know my aunt, who's also an AKA. She is also in Memphis, Tennessee.
Yes, I do.
Lou Buckner. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Family.
Small world.
I know. It is a very small world. So thank you again for, coming on and being with us on In the Telling. We always love to start things off with just hearing a little bit from you about, in your own words, who you are and where you come from.
Okay, well, I, as you mentioned earlier, was born in Mobile, Alabama during the period of segregation leading up to the Civil Rights Movement. And growing up at that time really influenced the things that I wanted to do in my life.
Wonderful.
You grew up on the farm.
And what about you, Mr. Beard?
Yeah, I, on the other hand, was born in Haywood County, Tennessee, on a farm. We had a piano. That was about the extent of the music at that time in the 40s, and the schools only had basketball, and of course, I tried to teach myself piano. Well, that didn't work out very well. So my aunt decided that if I came to Memphis, where they had high school bands, I would have a chance to learn music correctly, and that's how I ended up starting my career. When in the 4th grade, I started living with my aunt.
Originally, you were on a farm. How big was your farm?
It's a little less than 100 acres.
Okay. Oh, it's pretty big.
Yeah.
But at that time, a family could live on a farm with a few acres like that. Can't do it now. But 100 acres, you could feed a family of 7 or 9 or something.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's wonderful. So what is the story that you both want to share with us today?
Yeah.
Okay, I think it's good to talk about our backgrounds and how we came to the point that we are in life, because a number of younger persons, included in our family, don't understand some of the struggles that we went through. I grew up in Mobile in the city. Savoyd grew up in the rural area, but I grew up in the city. And I always had an aptitude for studying. And so from a very early age, my mother could see that I was very good at learning from the time that I was 4 years old. And as a result, she took it upon herself, because she didn't have money and things to do for me. But she would always make it a point to make sure that all of my time was spent being able to study. And, in terms of having to do errands and things like that, she'd always say, no, 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 you focus on your studies and learn even more than what you know now. And so that really was important for me in terms of what happened to me later in life.
And was she somebody who also went to school for a long time? Like what drove her to sort of like trying to
Well,
instill this in you?
Well, she came from a rural background as well, and she didn't complete high school. She had to stop in the 11th grade for financial reasons. And because of that, she was very supportive of me, knowing that I wanted to learn. And one of the things that really got me on the path of knowing the importance of education was that I saw that she was not able to accomplish a lot because she hadn't finished high school.
Mhm.
And I know the one thing that influenced me the most, and to this day, it still impacts how I view life, was that she would always make these sacrifices in terms of anything related to my education.
Mhm.
And she had
Got it.
this good friend named Gracie. And will never forget the day that Gracie said to her, "Why do you encourage her with all of this book learning? She's only
Mhm.
going to grow up to be a maid."
Mm.
And there is absolutely nothing wrong with being a maid because my mother was one.
Mhm.
But I always felt that education would allow me to have a better life. And
Right.
hearing her say that to my mother made me even more determined that my way to advance beyond what my parents had accomplished would be through education. And she was the one that kept encouraging, and so did my father. But that story from Miss Gracie still resonates with me today.
And what
Yeah.
about you, Savoy? Did you have the same type of upbringing where education was really important in your family?
Yes, my mother was the on the farm where we lived. She took care of all the records. She
Mhm.
did the tallies,
Mm.
uh,
Okay.
measured all the. You have to have a certain weight limit, when you got up for when you took the cotton to the gin. She took care of all that, and uh, but I, on the other hand, was even from the beginning. Like I said, we had a piano, and they saw that I had a love for two things: baseball and music.
Mhm.
And so that's when, in the fourth grade, I I moved in with my aunt, and here in
Mhm.
Memphis, and at the high school in those days, uh, it was 1 through 12, and
Mhm.
so in the fourth grade, I started living. My aunt started to raise me, and I
Mhm.
started taking music, and so even at Melrose, where I went to school, the band director saw that. When it came, for instance, recess time from 12 to 12:45 was recess time. We I didn't want to go out and play. We'd do duets and practice
Mhm.
during lunch hour, and
Right.
so he knew that I was a little different from everybody. Uh, I was kind of a
Mhm.
fanatic. I started being kind of a fanatic even at that age.
And he still
Well,
is.
yeah,
That's great.
so all I wanted to do was just
Passionate.
play, and so that carried on for a while. So I thought that, and it's a little different now because we got middle school and high school, but
Mhm.
in those days, I was around where the concert band would practice, and that would be 9th through 12. And I didn't know any different. I thought that
Mhm.
these musicians, the upperclassmen, I thought they were professionals. I thought you didn't get any better
Oh.
than that. I thought these
Oh,
are the greatest
wow.
musicians in the world. I want to be like
Mhm.
them. And
Mhm.
so about seventh grade or sixth grade, you were allowed to sit in with the professionals, I thought. And I just thought these were just great musicians, and it didn't get any better than that. And that's what I wanted to be like. And
Mm.
and then I was playing clarinet for 3 or 4 years. And then one day the band director came in and said, "Whoa, what's going on here? My three best musicians in the band all playing the same chair." So he fired me off of clarinet and said, "Look, you're gonna have to find you an oboe and you
Oh, wow.
and make sure when school started in the 10th grade, you're gonna be our concert band oboist." And
Mhm.
that's
Okay.
what I got my scholarship on oboe, which I never got a chance to use. Yeah. And then
Okay.
I ended up in service. And
Mhm.
when I got to Fort Bragg, I went to audition for that band, and
Mhm.
they had a person with a degree who they just had hired to be the oboe player.
Oh.
That we don't need an oboe player in a 24-piece band. And I said, "Well, what do you need?" And they said, "We actually need a flute player." We play all these marches. I know you guys heard of the Stars and Stripes. We don't have
Yep.
anybody who can play the Stars and Stripes forever. And they play that every time they play. So I said, well, hold the position open. I'll be back in 3 months.
Wow.
As long
Yeah.
as it
And
takes
I went
to learn
downtown
it.
and bought me a suit.
You see,
Mhm.
he never turns down a music challenge.
No. So as
Oh,
an
that's
airborne,
great.
I was drove an ambulance. And so when the paratroopers would train, I would take the ambulance out in the woods, and I had me a music stand, and a practice book in the
Mm,
ambulance. So I would sit in the
Mm.
ambulance all day in the woods and practice
mm.
and wait for the planes to come over and drop when they were training. So in 3 months, I went back, passed the audition. I had sense enough to know that they were going to ask me to play Stars and Stripes. So I played Stars and Stripes,
Of
and they said, "You
course.
in?"
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's how I started. Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
uh, but flute was the instrument that I actually passed the audition on. But
Nice.
I had planned to go back to school and finish my degree, and but they said we'll give you a couple of opportunities here. Say you can get out the military, go back to college, or have you ever heard of the Army Band in Washington? I said no. What's that? I never ever heard
Mm.
of the Army Band. And they said, well,
Mhm.
that's a band of professional musicians that support the White House.
Mm.
Would you like to do, if
Oh,
I can get you
okay.
an audition, would you go? And,
Mhm.
so I, took the audition and yeah, shocked the whole state of North Carolina. I passed. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's how I ended up in the Army Band.
Mrs. Beard, my next question for you was around opportunity and education, but I'm gonna go a little deeper. I'm going to ask you, like when I was growing up, I really loved reading. I love writing. So I'm very interested in what some of your favorite subjects were that you studied early on.
Okay. I definitely loved reading, and I read all the time.
Mhm.
My favorite subject was math, without a
Mhm.
doubt.
Mhm.
And so that led to me studying accounting and leading to me um, studying economics. When I arrived at Clark College, I had a full scholarship. But
Mhm.
what opened the door for me was we had a visiting professor from MIT who said,
Mm.
you
Hmm.
have an acumen for economics. Have you ever thought about studying that? And I said, no, I haven't. And because of his help and support, I was able to get a full fellowship to Washington
Mm.
University to study economics. And
Mhm.
that's what led to my career at the Federal Reserve Bank. So I've been very
Mm.
fortunate in my life in that education was so important to me that I was able to go through my undergraduate school as well as my graduate work without having to pay
Mhm.
any money.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
That's absolutely beautiful. I love hearing that. I love opportunity education. I love the way it intertwines and it makes the total difference in people's lives.
Yes,
Absolutely.
it does. And it still does. And I tell
Yeah.
that to young people now. You need to
Mhm.
get that education no matter what it takes in terms of sacrifice.
I love it. You both are. Sorry, Stephen. Go ahead. I just love it that you both are like, two sides of the same coin,
Mm.
Mrs. Beard, definitely, grounded in like economics. I'm thinking more logical. And Mr. Beard, you're kind of, a little bit more of the creative side.
That
And
is
it just seems like
Mhm.
it
that
must
is
be a
exactly
really
right.
wonderful world to be in, to be able to experience both so like fully. It just
Enriching.
seems like, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Right.
it's great. It's great to hear about.
So I think like Miranda has a great question about, in fact, I'll just ask the question then, I guess. How'd you guys meet?
Okay, we met at church. Um,
Okay.
Savoyd had come back to Memphis after living in Washington, D.C. He had a very
Mhm.
good career there, but he had two aunts that were ill. And so he came back to Memphis to take care of them.
Mhm.
I had just come to Memphis for my role with the Federal Reserve in this new position. And
Mhm.
we met at church within a month of arriving in Memphis. I was
Wow.
hosted at the door, and he
Okay.
walked in and he asked somebody my name and was I married, and that's how we met. And I think
Okay.
The one thing that impressed me about him the most was his love of family. I thought that
Mhm.
any man who would give up his career to come home to take care of two elderly aunts had the kind of character that I admired. And so
Mm.
that was
Right.
the one thing that drew me to him, the way he took
Mm,
care of family.
mm.
Wow.
And I don't know what drew me to him, but but he did ask for my name and number.
Okay. And if you were married, right?
And if I was married,
Yes. Yeah, yes, that.
yeah.
So,
Yeah,
That's
being singer really, but that was
yeah,
calling
yeah,
call. Good.
yeah.
mhm.
That's incredible. So you had to come back home to take care of family members.
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. And at what point in your life did you have to make that decision?
Oh, that was I had been that was after 7 years at the SCC, and
Mhm.
yeah,
Okay.
I was definitely in the up elevator, and
Mhm.
I was working in a band on the weekend. Join Army band retirement. Getting on Monday morning, I had a pocket full of checks, and and they were pushing me at the SEC to get get my engineering
Okay.
certificate and stuff.
Uh-huh.
But
Okay.
Yeah,
in
that's
fact,
good.
once I and they were sad to see me go because see I was one of four of a team of computer people who took care of all corporate filing in the whole country.
Yeah, well,
Mm.
that's
Mm,
one good thing about, Savoyd that I admired. Like I said, he gave all of that up to come here to Memphis, and I also
Mhm.
have to say that, I'm blessed that I wasn't ill, but he came in being very supportive of my career because I was
Mhm.
still at the
mm,
stage where there was a lot of travel involved, a lot of
right.
things, and he came in being very supportive of that. A lot of
Mhm.
men would have been thinking, "Well, you're gone, you're having to do this, you're in this meeting, that meeting." But, I appreciated the fact that he was very supportive and understanding and still is to this day.
I just practice. Yeah.
Yeah, and while I'm gone, so the music is what keeps him company. Yeah.
Gotcha, gotcha.
How much of your own families sort of develop these qualities in you to sort of have the relationship that you have now? Do you feel like where you've come from, and this could also be like how you have formed your lives,
Mhm.
growing up in segregation or growing up in a rural space or in a city or just growing up with the kind of supportive families that you had? How much do you
Well
attribute your lives today to, your past?
well,
It's a good
we
question.
both came from, parents that were together all of their lives, and so
Okay.
I think
Okay.
that set an example for us. And
Right.
Savoy's father died at a young age, but he had, his uncle who stepped into that role, so and I had my
Okay.
mother and father, so even,
Mhm.
growing up when I did, came from a 2 parent household, so we
Mm,
both
Mhm.
had
okay.
that background, and I think that's why we know the importance of having that support for each other, and so it's still there today, and
Okay.
we try to pass those values on to, our combined children as well.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. I can
It's very
definitely see
hard though
that.
because there are so many distractions.
Right.
Mhm.
Life is a different time now, but we still
Mhm.
let them
Right.
know the importance of supporting each other and being there for one another.
Right. Right. That's pretty, yeah, that's incredible. Was your uncle, after your father passed, was he or is he, um, sort of like what is the word that I'm looking for? An example for you when then you stepped into a caretaker role for, your aunts?
Yeah, yeah. Uh, well, I had two uncles and
Okay.
my mother stayed on the farm, and they worked together. And of course,
Mm,
um, come June the first every year, I packed up and I had to leave Memphis and go work on the farm, of course,
right.
and they all worked together. Uh, but it was mostly my aunt that I lived with between 4th grade and 12th grade that she pushed. She was an AKA. She pushed learning. Put it this way, she passed away early 80s, and she was still taking piano lessons.
Oh,
Mm.
wow.
She played Sunday school.
Mm.
Yeah.
You see, yeah. So she pushed me being in the band and
Mhm.
gave me what I needed to be successful there. And yeah, and I wanted to be successful like her. So, but
Mhm.
Right.
I just love to play, and she didn't have to tell me to practice. Sometimes she had to tell me to stop practicing and take out.
Yeah.
You know,
You have other responsibilities.
his saying that reminded me that when I was able to go to college, my parents didn't have all of the money because even though you had a full scholarship, you needed clothes and other things. And I remember my uncles, my father's brothers, they came in and, they bought the clothes, they did this. So now that I think about it, they really contributed a lot as well in terms of
Mm.
making sure. So, I think we both grew up in an
Mhm.
era where it was the extended family that all came together if they saw someone with ambition and wanting to do better. So it wasn't just the parents, the immediate parental structure, but you also had the extended family. And I think
Right.
Mhm.
that really applies to a lot of Black families today in addition to the parents, you had these others that are going to come in when they see
Mhm.
the need. And I hope that's something that we do as well, because we
Right.
both try to help anybody that we see with that ambition, not only by encouragement, but trying to help financially if we can to encourage others so that they can move ahead. Because I fully believe in that, bringing somebody with you, not just taking advantage of opportunities for yourselves, but how can you help others?
I was just going to ask you a question, you both a question about like what traditions you have,
Mhm.
you learned in your growing up in your youth that you've taken with you. And listening to you right now, Miss Beard, I know your son Lee really well. And I feel like that's like the embodiment of Lee,
Mm. Oh,
too.
yeah.
Just somebody who is very, very thoughtful and,
Mhm.
is always encouraging other people and is always like bringing other people along and definitely one of his strengths. And so, I see that as something that, you pass on, you definitely
Right.
incorporate into your life and then pass on. So that's,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's really beautiful to kind of, to
Yeah.
see that,
Mhm.
in this
Because
way.
I tried to pass that on. And I know Savoyd has done the same thing. And because you just can't look out for yourself.
Mhm.
We're still in an era where minorities still have further to go. And so that if you can help anyone, even if it's not someone in your family, but if you see someone who really wants to achieve, even if it's just encouragement, but that is so important. And that was given to me by my extended family. And I know it was given to Savoyd by his. And so
Mhm.
that's what
Hmm.
the two of us still try to do to this day. And with passing that on to our children as well.
Right.
Yeah,
I have a
for sure.
Uh-huh.
I have a question for you both as you're talking. Growing up in segregation and in the South, how did you see, what's your future, like the future that you created for yourself? How did you see that? How did you know that that was a possibility when you grew up in such a restricted time period?
Well, for me, it was when I went to college, because when I went to college, I had never been outside of Mobile, Alabama until I
Right.
Mhm.
left for undergraduate school. But as I went to college and I became exposed to different opportunities because I had teachers not only at my school, but visiting professors. And they talked to me about, things that are available if you work hard. And they made it
Mhm.
possible. For an example, I had professors that made arrangements for me to have summer experiences, one summer at Harvard, one summer at Yale. And
Hmm.
Mhm.
so, and seeing those experiences, I knew that there was a better life out there
Okay.
in terms of what I could be exposed to. Now, I knew it was not going to be easy, because there were not going to be people of my skin tone in some of these environments. So throughout my professional career, I had a number of times when I was the only woman in the room or the only Black person in the room.
Mm-hmm.
It just still gives you the encouragement that I may be the only one now, but in the next
Mhm.
10 or 20 years, it won't be an anomaly just to have one. So
Right.
for me, just being exposed and people letting me know, no, there is more to life and you can make it happen. And
Mhm.
so
Right.
that's what I did. And like I said, now I encourage younger women. In fact, I was at a dinner last weekend with women in my similar age group, and we talked about that, about how we had been the only woman in the room and how
Mm-hmm.
things have changed now. So it's nice
Mhm.
to
Right.
talk to a group of women that had similar experiences from mine from all over the
Right.
country.
Mm.
Yeah, mine was a lot different.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Well, primarily coming from a farm, uh, most of us who grew up on the farm and even my time here in the city of Memphis, counselors pointed you more in the direction of like uh, teaching,
Right.
uh,
Mhm, mhm,
uh,
that's pretty much.
not much in the professional world. Yeah, but
mhm,
uh, remember there were three professional jobs: undertaker, teacher, and
mhm.
preacher. Now,
Right.
I, I
Yeah.
couldn't preach worth nothing, and and definitely undertaking wasn't. I want to stay away from the funeral,
Well, no,
and
no, he can't say that. My father was a mortician.
but I didn't
Oh,
have any
okay.
talent. I didn't have a talent. Yeah. Plus, my family were had that sold up. Yeah,
Yeah.
my
Mhm,
Okay.
cousins were they own the funeral home, and
mhm,
so my outlook was a factory worker or band director. That
Mhm.
mhm,
was that was that was if I had gone to Tennessee State, and
Right.
there were a few jobs, Ray Charles or Count Basie or somebody like that. Uh, 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 but but I at that time I didn't, and being a flute player or an oboe player. Well, I was oboe playing. Oboe was more like an instrument where you would end up being a school teacher, and
Mm.
that was my outlook. And even through all the way through high school, that's how I saw it. And it was only when I left Tennessee that I saw the world be different, and
mhm,
and that's where and
Hmm.
as as a teacher, as an artistic director, I wasn't. I was between a student and a teacher, artistic director at the music school. That's one of the things I tried to get over to the students is the the difference is now you do have some other opportunities, Broadway musicals, playing in a theater, symphony,
mhm,
jazz, bands,
Right.
shows, TV. There,
Right.
things have opened
mhm,
up. Mhm.
Yeah.
But the hardest thing, it wasn't music was kind of secondary
mhm.
to trying to keep them from saying and doing stupid stuff on YouTube and
Okay.
Facebook.
All right.
Keep 'em on-
We're not gonna talk about the kids.
okay,
Yeah. One
but I as much as I could.
Yeah. One thing, and I just thought about this when we were talking about the influence of our parents.
Mhm,
Um, when my father would talk to me, because as I mentioned, he was a mortician, but unlike today where you can go to a college to learn that trade, he grew up when he was growing up in the 20s and 30s. I think he only made it to 8th grade. And the way he became one was that he somehow had a love for this profession. And when he
mhm.
was 12 and 13, he would go and serve as an apprentice where,
Okay.
he would
Mhm,
learn. And at that
Yes.
time, as long as you could pass the state exam, it didn't require a degree. And he took it upon himself to learn this so that he
Mhm.
was
Wow.
able to make a decent living, you know.
Mhm.
But it was based upon him having that desire and going
Right.
and doing this as an apprentice. And, you know, you wouldn't have that opportunity now. You would have to have gone through the professional. And
Right.
Mhm.
so, you know, more than
Mm.
50 years ago, 60 years ago, persons did take advantage of those opportunities where it may not have involved schooling, but it allowed you to get, as they would call it, a
Right.
trade to
Right.
learn
Right.
to do something.
Wow.
Wow. And what made your father interested in becoming a mortician? Was there somebody else in the family, or was it just
No
something
one
that
else in the
he
family. He just
Oh,
always said he loved doing that. And
Mhm.
I had a brother who had that same love. And when we were small, he would play funeral home and bury my dolls. So
oh.
it just seemed to be something in our family that
Wow.
we
Okay.
were able to do.
I always find that most people it is because it's something that's been passed down generation to generation.
Well,
Mhm.
So it's very intriguing.
you know, I think it may have been because he knew what he didn't want to do. We grew up
Oh,
Mhm.
in Mobile, and um, I just think that he wanted something. In all honesty, he wanted to
Mhm.
wear a suit and tie. And,
Okay.
you know, he knew
mm,
you had to wear a suit and tie for funerals. My father
Mhm.
right.
always, every day of his life, wore a suit and tie. And that was one
Mm.
Oh,
profession where he got to do that.
right,
I'm just being honest in terms of that was important to him because he
Mhm.
saw
right.
most men in terms of the jobs that they had, you know, the work was dirty or something like that. And now that I think about it, I think it was a little bit of the vanity that that's the kind of work that I want.
Mhm.
Well, maybe he just yeah, he wanted people to see him
See him
the
differently.
way that he saw himself, right?
Right,
And so, yes, if you see somebody in overalls, you might judge them
right.
differently than you see somebody in a suit and tie.
Mhm.
And
And he turned out to be so good at it. I mean, he was one of the best in Mobile, but I think it was because he wanted to be seen as something different than what he
Mhm.
grew
right,
up seeing.
right,
Can see that.
right. Yeah, absolutely. I think that would mean a lot in terms of yeah,
Mhm.
thinking about your identity and how you are
Self-esteem.
perceived in the world, right?
And I
Especially
think
during
that
that
really
time period,
applies. Yeah, I think that really applies to black men.
right?
It's really
Mm.
important. Mhm.
And so how did your family acquire the land, the farm? How did
Oh,
they
that's
become farmers?
that's an interesting question. Um,
Mhm.
Goes back a few years. At the would it be called like the Reconstruction period after slavery? Uh,
Mhm.
uh,
Were they homesteaders?
no, they were. My great grandmother. The plantation was lived on a plantation, of course, the hundreds,
Mhm.
maybe even thousands of acres, and
Hmm.
so that land was had the ability to stake it out, so to speak, and
Right.
Mhm.
so uh, three uh, the plantation that they were descendants of, three women from of my three of my ancestors, great
Uh huh.
great grand uh, women, file a claim and
Mm.
ended up with uh, few hundred acres apiece that they were able to buy. Uh-huh.
Okay.
And
Wow.
that's how, yeah, it was, the area where I was born was, it's called, the road is called the 5 Mile Lane because it's 5 miles long with about a mile on each side of the road. Well, all of that was one plantation at one time. And, so these women started the whole, uh, uh, they were called occurrence. They started the whole beard thing. My great great grandmother and the other two ladies, and then so they all end up were able to buy that whole area,
Okay.
and from that,
Wow.
from that we came. Yeah, my great grandmother, as a young lady, she was the daughter of one of these ladies, and she um that you remember the Trail of Tears, the Trail of Tears.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
well, the Trail of Tears runs just north of here, through northern Tennessee, where uh,
Mm.
the Indians were taken from South Carolina and North Carolina to the reservation, and that was the road that they used. Well, my family stems from the fact that one of the young braves escaped the army, and ended up in that neighborhood and married my great grandmother, and
Oh,
started.
wow.
That's yeah. His name was Alfred Redman, and he started.
Okay.
Yeah.
And but she was the one who had gotten the land, and from
Wow.
that, just a whole bunch of relatives sprung up, and cousins and uncles and aunts.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I think
up
at
to a
that
That's
couple of
pretty
hundred.
incredible.
I
Mhm.
That's
think at that
incredible.
time, it was
Mm-hmm.
probably easier for a woman to do it than a man in terms of
Mm.
showing up with the money
Or getting the grant.
and getting the grant. I think it was
Okay.
Yes.
because, I guess women were not viewed as much of a threat. I don't think they
Okay.
realized, "Oh, you're gonna marry somebody, there will be men involved," but I think it was more or less, well, women aren't that much of a threat, so these 3 women were able to secure the land, and so
Mm-hmm.
the land is
Mm.
still in his family today, but what you're
Oh,
finding is
great.
that yeah, but what you're finding is that the children of this generation don't wanna be farmers, and
Right.
that's
Yeah.
happening all over the South. The younger
Right.
kids, farming is not what they want, but fortunately, we still have the land in the family, and,
Right.
Yeah. Some of us still
yeah,
have. Yeah.
some of us still do.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Mhm.
And farming is very difficult. I
It
mean, it's
is.
a
Yes.
very, yeah, difficult profession.
And 100 acres is not enough to sustain a John Deere that has to run 24/7 and costs $100,000.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. That's an incredible story.
Mhm.
Mhm.
That is an incredible story. So speaking of like the future generations, I'm very interested in what kinds of because we heard some really beautiful stories today from you both in a very short amount of time. Are there specific stories that you want to pass along to your children, grandchildren, great grandchildren about your lives?
Well, for me, I would like for the future generations to know where we came from, and my older son, I know, has a son and a daughter, and he's always encouraging them to talk to us, find out our story, because he
Mm-hmm.
feels
Right.
that it's important for them to know from whence they came. Because, things that happened 65 years ago during the civil rights movement, and even before then, in terms of our experiences, that's not something that they can relate to. And
Mm-hmm.
so he believes it's important for them to know those stories. And my belief is that going forward, I would hope that one of our children or one of the grandchildren would take it upon themselves to either record our history
Okay.
in writing or through film and then
Mm-hmm.
add to it. Because I think ancestry is so important. And, you hear that all the time. Where did you come from? But
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't tell you all of the stories. And so, we've been trying to trace back before our parents, but I really
Mm-hmm.
wish we could document Savoy's history, my history, so that
Mm-hmm.
they will fully understand. Because, as I
Mm-hmm.
said, they've come along in a time that's so different that I don't think they
Yeah.
fully appreciate. They may see a film based in the 60s, but I think
Mm-hmm.
they need to understand that that's the time when we were living. And so what you
Right.
see in that film happened to us.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Absolutely.
If they can do away with history books, we're doomed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we want to do something where they can actually know our history,
Right,
not just what happened to other
Right.
people.
right. And
So
if
I'm really hopeful that one of them would take it upon themselves for documenting,
Mhm.
either written or by film.
Mhm.
All right.
Got to know the
All
past
right.
to be able to figure out what you're going to do for the future.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
And if you could give one piece of advice, one piece of wisdom to the next generation, what would it be?
Never use the word can't. I can't do this. I can't do that. You can do it.
Yeah.
So take that out of your vocabulary.
And
That would be my advice.
mine is from my master who taught me 90% of everything I know about music, who was also John Coltrane's teacher, Adolph Sandoli. The most important thing for any kind of success in this world is one word. And if you stick to that one word, any of us can be successful, and it is persistence.
All right. All right. Ain't nothing but a word. All right.
Yeah,
Nothing
just
but a
not
word.
one word.
Take
Yeah.
out can't, bring your persistence. Yes, I love it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love it.
Look, you could teach a monkey how to play a clarinet if he could get his attention enough.
Okay.
My goodness. My goodness.
We're
But he
gonna
just won't
take
stay
that.
still.
We're gonna take that on as a project for him.
Yeah.
That is-
Teaching the monkey how to play flute.
Yes.
Yes.
He won't
Persistence.
stay still long enough.
Gotta be persistent.
Oh, I don't know. Treats, lots of treats.
Yeah,
Lots of treats.
you go
Yes.
broke buying
Lots
treats.
of food. Yeah.
There you go.
Well, it was truly wonderful being in conversation with you both today, and
Thank you.
it was great to hear your stories. And yeah, I gotta say, yeah, it was a wonderful conversation. I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
Yes,
Well,
thank
much
you
of
so
luck
much
with your
for
podcast.
Yeah. Okay,
And
good
thank you
luck.
for
much.
having us.
I hope you got something you can
Yes.
use.
Thank you. Okay.
We did. Just thank you so much for being so open and so wonderful and sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.